Todd Mourning, of course, as most of the people in the Midwest know, heads up the rehab department, the physical rehab, physical therapy. They also have cardiac therapy that works in essentially the same area there. And come the early part of next year, of course, all will be moving out by Old 66 there. Todd really needs more room than he has because he does a land office business back there. How many people do you have on staff?
Right now we have 7 physical therapists, 6 physical therapy assistants, a speech therapist, and then 2 support personnel, and then 2 athletic trainers.
See, that's just a whole bunch of people, and they're all busier than cranberry merchants.
They sure are.
Every single solitary one of them. In fact, if I may throw in, can I do that?
Yeah.
Throw in a little plug for my department? Todd asked the volunteer department if they would please help with changing sheets and pillowcases on each of these, for lack of a better term, beds that are used in the rehab, because the people are so busy going from one client to the next that they hardly have a second to catch their breath. And the volunteer department was happy to pick up that little tiny chore and relieve them of something at any rate. So how many people, do you have any idea how many people you see in the course of a given amount of time, whether it be a week or a month, a year?
Typically, we see between 950 and 1,050 patient visits per month.
Oofta.
Sometimes it's a little bit more than that, depending on the month. Sometimes it's a little bit less than that, but generally right around 1,000. We average probably 48 to 50 visits a day over the course of a week.
And they come in various degrees of physical competency. You know, some of us walk in and some of us hobble in.
Yes.
And it's amazing to see some of those folks that come in there faithfully, and they really need help.
Yeah.
And I hope to graduate someday soon. But do we have ceremonies, cap and gowns, and all that?
You will not have a ceremony for this one. We save that for the next time you come in.
I see. Hope I'm here for
The second time around you get to graduate.
Yes.
I'd like to comment. Todd has a couple of potential physical therapists with us this morning. There's a great example, Judy, of the old expression, the chips don't fly far from the stump.
You betcha.
There's a couple of good-looking young fellows over there. Good morning, boys. How are you this morning? Okay, now Todd takes a great deal of educational background to be a physical therapist, just as it does for any medically trained student. Tell us a little bit about your background and how do your assistants go about acquiring their professional skills?
Well, myself, I have a master's and a doctorate in physical therapy from St. Ambrose University. Today, if a kid were to come out of high school, they would go into a bachelor's program and either get a bachelor's degree or get into what's called a 3+3 program, where they do 3 years of undergraduate and then go right into the doctorate program for physical therapy. Almost all your physical therapists now will graduate with a doctorate in physical therapy.
Really?
That's changed in the last couple of years. They've made that shift. We have the 7 physical therapists, and that includes myself, and then the 6 physical therapy assistants. The physical therapy assistant degree is typically an associate's degree, 2 years worth of school. And there's a program at Illinois Central College, program down in Belleville, program down in Carlinville. So those programs are a little bit more readily available, but very hard to get into.
Are they?
For yourself, by the time you got through your bachelor's, your master's, your doctorate, that was a lot more than 6 years.
Yes. It took me 10 years to get my master's. I worked
because you're not a full-time student.
I did not go full-time to start. Did my bachelor's, worked for a few years, went back and got my master's in physical therapy, and then I worked here. I didn't finish my doctorate until December of last year, and that was a 1.5-year process of online and going to Davenport, Iowa once a week over a period of year and a half.
Well, that's
to
outside
finish
your
the class.
backyard, Todd, or doctor. Maybe I should call you doctor. That sounds nice and
Yeah.
respectful.
So, but it was.
Well, he's earned it.
Yes.
It was challenging. It was rewarding, but I feel like I'm done with school at this point.
And all of this background in education certainly inures to the benefit of all of us who have need to use the rehab department. Now, you mentioned also speech therapy. Maybe I could use a little of that too.
Nah.
Now, you mentioned also speech therapy. Maybe I could use a little of that too.
Not so much.
Get up here in front of this microphone once in a while and get. What is it? I did. I forgot.
She can help that too.
No, seriously, very seriously. There are folks as a result of strokes, I suspect, that have speech impairments,
Right.
as opposed to impediments.
Right.
And there's a distinct difference there. Tell us about that.
Our speech therapist sees a variety of patients. Her specialty really is early intervention, which is children 0 to 3 years old when they're starting to develop and they're not developing properly. She can come in and use techniques to help develop their speech along more normal patterns. Once they get after 3 years old, they go into the school systems. But then she also sees some of those kids coming back into the clinic to help with them. When you get into the older population, you're right, Bill, you're talking about stroke. People have memory impairment. They can't speak properly. A lot of times they can't swallow properly. And we actually have a machine, it's an electrical stimulation machine, that she puts electrodes on your throat, and it will stimulate those muscles to help swallow. So if people can't swallow their food, they get choked, or what they do is they aspirate. They suck it down into their lungs. They look at that on a diagnostic film under fluoroscopy, and then they can do these exercises along with the vital stim and work to help improve that muscle tone and that muscle function, so that they can get some normal ability back to chew and swallow and not aspirate into the lungs. When you aspirate, you end up getting pneumonia, and we all know that pneumonia is not a good thing.
Not so much. You know, it used to be that if a child, you talked about this going from 0 as early as a newborn. I thought back to the olden days. People used to sometimes be born what they called tongue-tied, in that this little membrane that's under your tongue was not right, and they'd clip that. Well, now they don't do that anymore. Would this be one of the kinds of patients that a speech pathologist would see?
She is more in the line along the lines of abnormal development for the speech patterns. Whether that physical impairment I'm not sure if that would play a part in that at all. But she takes kids when the parents are noticing that their kids just aren't communicating well with other kids, or they're not socially interacting, or their speech is delayed. You know, they're 18 months old. They should be, verbalizing some words, and they're not yet. That's where she steps in and helps these kids to start to develop those normal patterns that we all go through. Some of them are just delayed.